do that first. Stay. You're gonna have to get right about here, or
I can pick up pretty well.
okay. So pretty much stand. Your mark will be right there.
Okay.
And
you can do that.
then, can he just look generally out? Okay, so that's fine. So introduce yourself. Probably not hands in pockets.
Okay.
And then, the acknowledgement to David Douglas and to Peter when you're started, and then introduce Matt. So we'll have you guys sing "Great" for the coach by here, out of camera, and you'll want to sing your name and spell it, and your title as well. All right. Clear? Clear. Okay. 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
And then since you're last, you might want to stay there and say if there's any questions.
You can just talk more.
Do you want me to spell my name too, or?
Yeah, just because.
Okay.
We have people watching the channel.
All right, Cody. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Cody Holthouse. That's CODYHOLTHOUSE. And I work for the Oregon Department of Agriculture. I am the program manager for the Insect Pest Prevention and Management Program, also State Survey Coordinator. And I'm lucky enough to work on the Emerald Ash Borer State Task Force as the chair that works with over 40 different agencies that are all partnered in responding to Emerald Ash Borer the last several years since it was first detected in Oregon in 2022. We have been working in partnership with, again, Oregon Department of Forestry, USDA APHIS PPQ, Clean Water Services, Oregon Metro, and a number of other agencies. I can't list them all. Again, there are over 40. There's quite a few people a part of this story. But working very hard since 2022 to respond to this pest. It's a cryptic species, invasive, and it hasn't been west of the Rockies and up until 2022 when it was found here in Oregon. And so we have been working very hard to try and slow the spread of emerald ash borer, which is a very devastating pest, obviously towards ash trees, white fringe, and olive. As my agency, ODA, has been involved with the quarantine, we have been very focused on where we're finding emerald ash borer in the state so that we can slow its spread from where it is currently from moving into other novel locations. And so we have been working very hard in Washington County since its initial detection in Forest Grove with all these other agencies in partnership, following it there. And then as it was found subsequently in Marion, Clackamas, and Yamhill counties, we worked with our local partners in those counties to track and follow the pest there and spread, again, education on how to slow this pest. There are a variety of methods that U.S. Forest Service, Oregon Department of Forestry, and other partners have come up with to slow the spread of this beetle. But it is a cryptic beetle, and as much as we try to slow it down, it can jump our lines and show up in novel locations, as is the case today. I'm here at David Douglas School District with, again, some of my partner agencies. I want to thank the school district for having us and hosting us today. They had the opportunity to have an arborist, Peter Van Oss, who is also here from Tarragon and Associates, which is an arborist consulting company. We're able to assess this parking lot here at David Douglas School District in Portland, and we're doing an inventory of some of the trees as they were going to update the parking lot. And they noticed that one of the ash trees that they were looking at had emerald ash borer potentially in it. There were signs and symptoms. They were very concerned, and so they reached out to Oregon Department of Forestry, who then reached out to us at Oregon Department of Agriculture. We then received a trap sample later on, and we were able to confirm that it was an adult emerald ash borer in partnership with USDA APHIS PPQ, who does the official confirmation. And so once we had our entomologist look at the beetle and make that confirmation, we knew that it was here in Multnomah County. As I mentioned before, we've known the pest to be in Marion, Clackamas, Yamhill, and Washington counties. Multnomah County is a new county in the story here in Oregon. And so we're going to be working to, well, we already have added Multnomah County to the quarantine. And so that means that we're now restricting the movement of ash, that's all fraxinus species, olive and white fringe tree from moving outside of Multnomah County or other restricted counties that are within the quarantine. And if you'd like to know more about the quarantine, you can visit the Oregon Department of Agriculture's website. We have plenty of materials there on the actual rule itself, what you can and can't do, some of the associated fines that are associated with moving articles of ash, olive, or white fringe out of the county. And you might be asking, why do we have a quarantine for a pest like this, especially one that's so cryptic and can show up in the forest and jump surveillance lines? And that's because we believe that by educating people as to what they can do with their firewood and other green waste materials, they'll know that they shouldn't be moving it out of places where we know emerald ash borer is. We don't want to inoculate other parts of Oregon that don't already have the pest. We want to give those other parts of Oregon as much time as possible to prepare. And so if we can limit the movement of green waste and firewood, we strongly encourage that. And in fact, again, I've created this quarantine to try and enforce it. And so with that, I will turn it over to my colleagues here at the Oregon Department of Forestry. I'll have Matt Mills take my place here.
Hello, my name is Matt Mills, M-A-T-T-M-I-L-L-S, and I am an emerald ash borer support specialist in the Urban and Community Forestry program at the Oregon Department of Forestry. The reason we're concerned about emerald ash borer is because it's been spreading across the East Coast for over the last 20 years, killing over 100 million ash trees in its wake. It's believed to be the most destructive forest pest in the United States right now. As Cody said, we've had a recent detection here in Multnomah County, and we want to help people understand their options and how to help us track the spread of EAB and prevent it from spreading rapidly. We have a website called OregonEAB.com. Anybody can access that site. We have a web map where you can see the detections we've already discovered, and also management actions you can take now to protect yourself from the damage of these trees. We also have extensive information on resources available to homeowners and municipalities and natural area managers for actions they can take now to limit the devastation and the financial implications of this pest. And we also have a guide on how to identify an ash tree and how to look for the signs and symptoms of emerald ash borer. So emerald ash borer is a small beetle, also known as EAB or Agrillus planapellis, that is about a little under a half an inch long. It is emerald green. It's quite narrow and thin, and what it does is it finds ash trees and it lays its eggs on those ash trees. Those eggs are going to hatch. The larvae are going to burrow into the tree, and those larvae are going to start feeding underneath the bark. And what they do is they feed on the layers of the tree that transport water and nutrients up and down the tree. Eventually, so many of these beetles are building up in the tree's ability to transport nutrients is blocked, and it starts killing the tree. We believe that about 1 in every 1,000 trees that is not protected from emerald ash borer is going to survive, and all the others are going to die, unfortunately. So we're going to be a massive change in our ecosystems and our urban forests because of this beetle. Kind of blanked on what I was going to say next. Sorry, you shouldn't have said that out loud. So the signs and symptoms you can look for to identify emerald ash borer are first looking for ash trees. Make sure you have an ash tree, and they can be identified by their leaf structure. They have what's called a pinnate compound leaf. Hold on, I need a second. I got really nervous. I don't think that's really something I should be explaining to people. It's kind of complicated, so I'm just going to step back. So the first thing people can do to identify an EAB infestation is to identify what an ash tree looks like. They are a fairly unique tree, and you can go to OregonEAB.com and look on our website under identification to find out what an ash tree looks like. Once you have identified an ash tree, it's time to look for these signs and symptoms of emerald ash borer. The first thing you're going to look for is a dying canopy, either thinning branches, a lot of yellowing, or completely dead branches. That's what the arborist here did. He noticed some of these trees were looking kind of sickly, and he took a closer look. Next thing you look for are maybe woodpecker damage, where they've been drilling into the bark or flaking off the bark to look for the larvae underneath. If you're seeing those signs and symptoms, there's a good chance you have EAB, but other things can cause that damage as well. What you want to look specifically for are D-shaped exit holes that are about 3 millimeters or a 1/4 inch wide. They're going to be completely flat on one side and rounded on the other 3. Looks like a capital D. That's one of the few things in Oregon that'll make that shape on an ash tree is going to be the emerald ash borer. So if you see those D-shaped exit holes, it's a really good indication that there's emerald ash borer in that tree. You can also look for 3 to 8 inch splits in the bark, and underneath that bark you might see where the larvae has been chewing away at that nutrient-rich layer and choking off the tree. If you see that information, we'd really like you to go to the Oregon Invasive Species Hotline with pictures of your tree, the damage you saw, and the location of that tree, and report that to us. That will help us track the spread of emerald ash borer in Oregon. One thing you can do, a few things you can do to help protect yourself from the damage of EAB is go to our website, OregonEAB.com, and go to the Management tab. We have information on actions you can take now to protect your trees from EAB. Low quality trees or small trees, it might be time to remove and replace those trees. Larger trees that you want to protect and keep healthy, there are treatments available that will protect those trees from emerald ash borer. They can be highly successful and relatively safe. They are a trunk injected pesticide, which means they're injected directly into the trunk of the tree, so you're not spraying these pesticides in the atmosphere. These pesticides are taken up by the tree and spread throughout the tree, and when the larvae or the adults feed on that tree, they're more likely going to perish because of that. They can be highly effective. These treatments are not permanent though. They need to be repeated every 2 to 3 years. When to take those actions depends on how far you are from an emerald ash borer infestation. We have a web map on OregonEAB.com, which has management guidelines based on how close you are to an infested area. If you are within a mile of an infested area, it's time to take action now, because there's a good chance that EAB will be in your tree very soon. If you're within 5 miles, it's really time to start planning on what you're going to do, maybe consult an arborist about removal and replacement or treatment. And if you live within 25 miles, it's really now time to understand where your ash trees are and what actions you can take going forward, and keep an eye out on our website for where more infestations are popping up. As far as what the City of Portland is going to be doing, I'm going to turn that over to Jen Cairo, the City Forester for the City of Portland.
Good morning, and thank you, Matt and Cody. I'm Jen Cairo, Portland City Forester, JENNCAIRO. And first I want to thank APHIS, Oregon Department of Agriculture, and Oregon Department of Forestry for their support and collaboration on this situation and the years of preparation that have gone into getting to this point. Thank you also to Peter Van Oss, the arborist who detected this infestation here at David Douglas Swimming Pool, and all of our community partners who have been helping learn about the potential for EAB and prepare for this event happening today. This is an unfortunate but not unexpected development for us. Emerald ash borer is a threat to Portland's urban forests, specifically about 95,000 ash trees that we have in the city. That's a significant part of the trees in Portland. These trees provide valuable shade, habitat, and other services to our communities. At this time, this seems to be an isolated infestation. Decades of research and recommendations from other parts of the country have informed our preparation for EAB's presence in Portland. And our response has helped tremendously by close relationships with our community partners, everything from neighborhood associations and folks who are volunteering to help with detection to arboricultural professionals, and of course, again, ODF, ODA, and APHIS. Our preparation for the arrival of EAB has been going on for several years. Here are some examples. In 2019, we removed ash trees from the city's approved street tree planting lists. We also have been participating for some time in the state's Emerald Ash Borer State Task Force. We developed a robust Emerald Ash Borer response plan, which is available for anyone to see and use on our website. And we've been proactively protecting ash trees in parks by treating them with insecticides since 2023. This is an environmentally friendly treatment. It is injected into the trees, not sprayed or drenched into the soil, and it is fine for pollinators, animals, people, and other vegetation. We've also been annually monitoring with partners using traps since 2024, and this is part of the statewide effort that you heard mentioned earlier. We've also been reducing and removing barriers for the public to manage their ash trees and the presence of EAB in the city. So your question now is probably, what is the city going to do at this point now that EAB has been detected in Portland? At Urban Forestry, we'll continue to lead the city's treatment of all healthy ash trees in parks by providing them with this targeted insecticide that I mentioned before. Park trees that don't qualify for treatment will be proactively removed, and other trees will be planted back that are a non-susceptible species. We are also continuing to set and monitor emerald ash borer traps in all areas of the city to identify the extent of the infestation. As you've heard before from my colleagues, a pruning and removal moratorium is in place. Under the moratorium, tree work should be done between October and March to help limit the spread of emerald ash borer. It's a great time to schedule tree work right now, as October is right around the corner, for this winter, and also to schedule with your professional certified arborist any treatment for ash trees you might have for this spring. Healthy street trees and private trees can be chemically treated to protect them from becoming infested. Ash trees of any size can be proactively removed and replaced with a no-cost permit. So how the public can help. Now is a great time to act. We're all going to continue to be working together to contain the infestation as best we can. You all can be on the lookout and report suspicious trees to the Oregon Invasive Species Hotline. Clear descriptions and photos will help us monitor the spread of EAB through the city. You can also make a plan. Work with your experienced certified arborist to make a plan for the trees on your property. If you're not certain if you have ash, you can use the web resources that were referenced earlier. You can also confer with an arborist. They can help you develop a plan for your trees, including treating or any removals that need to be done and within the quarantine period. This proactive treatment should be done by a licensed pesticide applicator. There are safety and health concerns for people using the chemicals as well as the environment, and follow the labels carefully. Also, don't move firewood. Per the state's quarantine, and properly dispose of your ash wood waste. And finally, in conclusion, where you can learn more about emerald ash borer, you can see the City of Portland's emerald ash borer webpage, and also, of course, OregonEAB.com. So that concludes our prepared remarks for now. We'll be happy to field any questions y'all might have.
The quarantine is probably going to affect a lot of people. What exactly does that look like? People can't move just ash firewood, any firewood. What's the quarantine?
Great question. The quarantine itself does cover ash. No problem. Yeah, so that's a great question. The quarantine itself does cover all ash, which is the genus Fraxinus, but it also covers white fringe tree and olive species. So it's not just ash. That's an important thing to remember. And you know, what does it mean? As was already mentioned, it means that we're not moving green waste that is associated with those species out of the quarantine counties. You can move things within those quarantine counties, but you cannot move them out into other non-quarantine counties, again, to limit the spread and establishment of this pest in other novel locations.
Do olive trees and white fringe trees also need to have the similar treatment to prevent an infestation?
Correct, yeah, you would need to, if you were trying to meet compliance with the quarantine and say you're a nursery wanting to move stock out of these quarantine counties, you'd have to work with the Oregon Department of Agriculture on meeting compliance, whether it be from treatment, tissue culture, some kind of screens to exclude the pests from your grow site, things like that.
How does this pest move between trees? Does it, like, how did it get here? This is the parking lot.
I'll let Matt Mills from ODF answer that.
Yeah, so the adult beetles emerge from the tree anytime from late June through August, and then they live in our environment for the next 4 to 6 weeks. They'll feed on ash material, the leaves, but they don't eat a whole lot. They have a short lifespan. They don't do a lot of damage to the tree. What they do is they mate, and then they go find a new ash tree to infest. Females can fly up to 10 miles a year, but usually they find something they want to feed on before that. So average rate of spread is more like 2 to 4 miles a year. And in fact, most females will actually return to the very tree they came out of. It's a small percentage that will fly off and start a new infestation. So that's how they spread around. They move large distances, like probably how they got here from Oregon, is people transporting infested firewood and other sorts of material. So that's why we're really trying to hammer home the message that we should not be moving firewood around the state. It'd be very easy from somebody from Portland to move firewood that's infested here that they don't know is infested down to Roseburg or farther south and infest that area and increase the spread of emerald ash borer. All the actions we're taking here in Oregon, including in quarantine, are designed to slow the spread of emerald ash borer through the state and give other communities a chance to understand their risk to the pest and start planning for it and mitigate the damage, both environmental and economical, that they could suffer because of it.
I'm all right with that.
So what you were looking at here, can you just tell us how this came about here in the parking lot? What happened here?
Yeah, so I was working on a separate project that had nothing to do with this at all. However, we were inventorying all the trees as part of a tree protection plan that's required for construction. And I came on this parking lot and noticed that there was all ash trees, so I kind of, my senses were heightened because of the species of the tree. And when I was walking around, this was earlier a few weeks ago in the summer, one thing I noticed immediately was that the tree was looking a little bit more stressed. There was some chlorotic yellowing foliage, and there was some blonding, like woodpecker damage, the lighter color on the bark of the tree, which really was another symptom that stood out to me. And when I came closer to the tree, I started looking for some D-shaped exit holes, which fortunately was possible because they're such short, small trees. And I did find a D-shaped exit hole that was about the size of a ballpoint pen tip. And then after that, we came back, and I brought my colleague Tom Feidel with me, and he stepped up in the tree and found more exit holes, and we kind of scraped the bark away to reveal this S-shaped serpentine gallery that the larvae create, and that's when we reported it to the invader hotline.
Do you think most arborists like you are aware of what to look for in terms of emerald ash borer? Because it's a pretty rare pest right now. I mean, are most arborists aware of what to look for?
It probably greatly depends on what area they have worked in the past. I know the Midwest has been exposed to emerald ash borer for a long time, and those people might be a little bit more familiar with the symptoms, but arborists that have only worked in Oregon may need to brush up on some of the symptoms and signs. And one thing that we discussed at the office was the blonding of the woodpecker damage. That was like a real good indicator to warrant some more inspection of the rest of the tree.
Does anyone have any advice for homeowners that might have an ash tree? For me, who doesn't know what they're looking at all, I would see something like this and say, leaves are turning, because we're getting close to fall. But that's clearly not the case. Anything specifically that folks should know?
Thanks, Peter. Great question. Yeah, leaves are turning right now, so yellowing is a sign, but not that helpful this time of year. I would say the first thing one can do if you're not familiar with ash trees is use online resources to help you identify, might this be an ash, might it be an olive, might be a white fringe tree. The latter two are more uncommon in Portland. And once you think you may have an ash, and if you're uncertain, you should consult with an experienced professional arborist who will be able to certainly identify the tree and also proceed with inspecting it for the presence of EAB or other health issues and give you recommendations on what a plan might be, whether that's treating the tree or removing the tree, or if you're lucky it's not an ash that has no infestation, you don't have to worry about that. The City of Portland has some resources online for that. You can web search for City of Portland local tree care providers. That's a program we've had running for, probably getting close to 30 years now, where we work with local companies to help them know what the current events of the urban forest are, and it also, when they go through that course, they've met certain qualifications to be on that list. It is a very long list. We try to include as many companies as we can who are interested in participating and have certified arborists and business licenses in the city. So that's a great resource for folks to go to if you're not sure what arborist company, or you don't have an arborist you work with. You can go there.
So I know we once had an American chestnut across this country that was decimated by a fungus. Is it possible that Oregon ash, or ash in general, could become like the American chestnut, just totally decimated and a rare tree because of it?
That's another good question, and I'm going to start, but then I'm going to turn it over to other folks. Yes, it could. It is like that, actually, in the eastern United States and in the Midwest. As Peter mentioned before, where EAB has been present before now and done immense damage, millions and millions of trees lost. Once EAB infects a tree, it's pretty much done. The inoculations have to happen before there's the presence of EAB, and it is in general 99% of all the ash in an area that are lost, regardless of what type of ash, as well as olive and fringe tree. Anyone else want to comment on that? Yes. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, as Jen said, we do expect to lose 99% or more of our ash trees here in Oregon. Oregon ash is our native ash tree, and it is critical to our riparian habitats. Pretty much anywhere you've got standing water or even flowing water for more than a couple months every year, you're likely to have Oregon ash as your dominant tree species. So if you're a land manager or a homeowner and this meets your or that description matches your property, it's time to look at your ash trees and assess your risk. As those ash trees start dying, you're going to lose shade on streams and waterways. That's going to heat up those aquatic systems, and that could negatively affect our fish population because they like cool water to lay their eggs in. You could see an increase of invasive species like blackberry and reed canary grass. Without that ash structure there to shade that property, those are going to come in. You're also going to maybe see increases in flooding. We had colleagues on the East Coast who talked about losing their black ash forests and seeing the water table rise as much as 6 feet. There are actions land managers can take now to kind of mitigate some of that destructive actions. One thing they can do is start underplanting with replacement trees. Unfortunately, there's not one tree species in Oregon that's going to do a good job of filling all the niches that Oregon ash does. It's a very adaptive tree, and it tends to take over and form these stands of pure ash. What they can start doing now is selectively removing some of those trees and underplanting with other species of trees that are going to do well in their local climate and be climate adaptive. That way, as we start having hotter, longer summers, those trees are going to survive and provide those ecosystem functions that those ash trees used to do.
Could this negatively impact drinking water for cities?
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question, to be honest with you. So, I think it's definitely something we need to look more into.
How can you possibly monitor, like the gorge, for forest departments where there's so many trees? How could you monitor that in an area so large with so many trees?
Well, once the report of emerald ash borer was made here, Department of Forestry and City of Portland set up a purple trap that you can kind of see in that tree there. We have a network of almost 300 traps throughout Oregon, mostly in the Willamette Valley and going up to the gorge as well. We work with over 20 different local partners to monitor these traps throughout the summer. And that's how we look for EAB. We also provide a lot of training events for people to learn the signs and symptoms of EAB. We rely on arborists and even homeowners and people who are just out in nature to look for sickly ash trees, take a closer look for those D-shaped exit holes and bark splits, and report them at the invasive species hotline. There are far too many ash trees in the state for us as just state agencies to monitor, so we really need support from the public and other agencies as well. And when you make those reports online, it's critical to take a picture of what you saw. We get a lot of reports that just say, I saw a green beetle in the woods. There are lots of beetles in Oregon that look similar to emerald ash borer. So what we really want you to do is take a picture of the tree so we can identify, yes, it is an ash tree. We'd really like a picture of what you saw, if it's an exit hole or bark split or just a very sickly looking tree, and a very accurate location of where that was.
I guess I have one more question.
Yeah.
So I've seen people with olive trees in their yard. worried? The little olive trees that people have as like decorative landscaping.
Also, a really good question, and one that we're actively working on with Oregon State University and a variety of other partnered academic groups. Research is ongoing. We don't fully understand what kind of host olive is for emerald ash borer, but right now, anecdotally, it looks like kind of a secondary host where we get some preliminary development of some of the larval instars, which are the juvenile stage of the beetle, and we don't have a lot of evidence of a lot of full, completed maturation and then emergence. But that said, again, there's really not a lot of data out there right now. The publications that are there are preliminary, and much more work needs to be done. And some of the work that we were involved with here at the Oregon Department of Agriculture was working on really small saplings of olive, and again, we thought potentially there could be issues with using those small saplings. We'd want to do more work on larger, more mature trees. So, you know, there is confirmation that in the lab and in, you know, some controlled studies, we do get development of emerald ash borer and olive, but again, it looks to be somewhat of a subpar host compared to things like ash. But the jury's still out on that. We have more work to do.
One other question: is there financial assistance available to people who have an ash tree but can't afford to do detriment?
Very good question. I will turn that over to my partners at Oregon Department of Forestry because they've been working on some projects in the past of that nature.
When emerald ash borer was first detected in Forest Grove, hold on, let me take a step back and ask Cody a question. E-board is short for what now? Emergency? Basically emergency session. Okay. All right. So when emerald ash borer was detected in Forest Grove, the state legislature held an emergency session to allocate funding to an initial response. That funding expired in a year, and since then, the Department of Forestry has been using bipartisan infrastructure law funding to support some ongoing EAB projects throughout the state. Unfortunately, both those funding sources has dried up, so there is not currently state funding available to help landowners and homeowners manage emerald ash borer. Some local organizations, like your soil and water conservation districts, might have programs available to help you manage your ash stand, but that'll be a county by county decision.
How do the traps in the tree work?
Yeah, so the trap in the tree, we got one back there. We can show you so you can get a better shot of it. So the traps in the tree use a pheromone lure to attract emerald ash borer to it. It's also purple. Research has shown the emerald ash borer seems to like the color purple as well. So once these emerald ash borer are drawn to the trap, the outside of most of these traps are covered in a sticky substance. The emerald ash borer lands on it and it can't get away. These traps are checked every 6 to 8 weeks throughout the summer. Reported to us when they find something curious. Our invasive species expert, Wyatt Williams, manages this program. All those reports go to him, and he will verify if it's emerald ash borer, and if he believes it's emerald ash borer, along with the Department of Agriculture, that sample will be sent on to USDA APHIS, and they will confirm whether it's emerald ash borer or not. That's exactly the process we went through with our discovery we're announcing today. Any more questions? All right, on the table behind us, we have samples of wood and beetles and bark samples and a lot of great visuals, as well as resources for homeowners and really any land manager. Great visuals for you.
And if anybody would like to grab it.